Hey, welcome back. So now we want to add some settings to the top of the page there. So let me go to my controller here. Now to get our settings, we get those settings from this model here. So copy. Now the thing is, the header is the one that's getting all these settings. So it's pretty much going to be on every single page, right? Now, if there's an activity that you do which requires to be run every time, the same way we have this core system here, we can go the same way we have this database.php. You can put your, for example, this settings class, you can put it inside the core here, and then you load it using the init right here, init.php, the same way we loaded these others, functions, database, and so on. And then once you do that, it will be available everywhere, and you can do you can instantiate it right here, or you can instantiate it everywhere. So because the settings class is like that, let's see here, get all settings and then save settings here. Okay, so what we want to be using is that. So maybe we can refactor our code later, but for now, let's just use it as it is. What it will mean though is that on every single page here, I have to actually instantiate it and read the settings the same way I am doing for these guys here. But actually, because somebody asked me how that can be done, so maybe let's try and do that with our settings class. Okay, so let's take a little detour here and do that. So let's go to init.php and create provision for one more item. Let me duplicate the database here and say setting.class.php. Okay, and let's save there for a second. And then let me go to setting.class.php, this one right here. I'm going to close that. And because I want to move it now from my models to core, so I'm going to right click and say open containing folder. Then I'm going to cut it from here, go to core and paste. So everything that runs on every instance, every time you refresh your page, then that becomes part of the core. So that's why it's better to put it there so that you don't have to instantiate it every single time. Okay, so there we are done. Now, if I try to run things should run normally. Let me close the settings thingy again. Where is this? Settings, right. So at the end of the class right here, if you don't want the hassle of having to instantiate it every time, you can do it right here and just say settings is equal to new setting, like that, and then it will already be instantiated. Then you can just grab this and use it. However, in my opinion, it's a good idea to instantiate it when you want to use it. That way it's easy for readability, because in future you come back and you're not going to know where you actually created the instance of that object, and it may cause you problems. But it's entirely up to you. So in our situation where we always need the settings, right? Let me come back here to admin. Where is this? Okay, there we go, setting. So here we did instantiate it using the load model. So this is the variable that we've been using all along. So I'm just going to copy this and remove that. And then I'm going to go back to my class, and the same way I've done this here, I can paste there like so. Okay, so setting. Okay, so now the thing is, if I come back here for a second, there is a now that I've instantiated this, I can get all of them, like here where it says get all, and then I get all these and then save them to a specific variable. So maybe we should do that. I'm torn between one decision or the other, but I have to settle for one, like this. I didn't want to have to do this here, but I think it's okay. There's another method I wanted to try, but I think this one will work just fine. It's not very organized. That was my hesitation. It's not very organized to do things like this, but it will add less code in the system. So the way I've done this is, now I instantiated the settings class, and then I read all settings and put them in here. So that way I can easily grab them from wherever I want to. Now the only issue here is this. You see, each setting here is a new role. So for me to get to, let's say, email, right? For me to get to email, because I have loaded all this into my settings, actually maybe it would be better for me to actually show you what this contains. That way it will boost understanding. So let's just do that. Settings, like so. And then I'm going to go to my page and refresh. Let's do that. Okay, so there we go. Now we have this. Now the problem here is that for me to get to a setting like phone number, right? I have to go through 0 and then go to phone number, just to know that phone number is, the thing is, I have to know whether email is on location number 1 or number 2, and this is not very ideal. What I want to be able to do is to just point, like I say, settings like that, and then I just say email, something like this, right? Very straightforward thing. Settings, email, and then I get that email from the settings. So let's see if we can actually configure that. Okay, so what we can do is create another function here that instead of get all, it does all that for us. So let's use the same class like so. And then I'm going to say here, 1 second. So it's going to be get all, and then I'm going to put object at the end. Now you can name this anything you want. This is just for me to remind me that I'm just getting all the settings as a single object. Okay, so then we can do this here and say object like that. Get all. Maybe just to be specific, as object like that, because this is the only time we're going to run this function anyway. So even if the name is so long, it's not really a big deal. So get all as object. So yeah, now we get all the settings. And then what do we do now? So what we do, this is the result here, but instead of returning it right there, let me save it to data like so. And then what I'm about to do is loop through the data. So I'm going to say for each data. Now the thing is, it's important here to add an if statement, because it's very possible that data will not be an array. So it may be equal to false. So let me duplicate that and put a bracket over there like so. Alrighty then. So once we are looping through this, what we want is to have an object that we can add things to. So let's create an object here. I don't know, I'm going to call it settings maybe. Is equal to, I want to create an object. To create an array, you do that, but I want to convert it to an object like this. Okay, so it's an array that I'm creating, but I'm converting it to an object. That way I can simply add things as they are. So at this point, I can just say for each. So if I'm looping here, the key, and then there's a value. Now the value is an actual row in this case, because there are rows in there. And I don't really need the key because the key is simply a number. If I come back here, if you remember, these are the keys and the value is an actual object here. Okay. So what I want to do now is to add to settings a key and a value. So if we look here, we have the setting and then we have the value. So let me do that. I'm just going to say settings like this, and then I'm going to use the row wait a minute, I need a variable here to give me the name of the setting. So let me just do this. I'm going to say setting name, just to make the code more clearer. So setting name is going to be equal to row setting, like so. So this is the setting name here. So I'm going to use that over here. So keep note that there's a $sign there because this is a variable and it's not the actual location. So settings setting name should be equal to, yes, and then we're going to equate that to the setting, the row value, like so. Oops, there we go. Okay, that should do just fine. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to return settings. So whether this goes on or not, settings will still be an empty object, so we can still happily return that. And then down here, I want us to show settings. Why did I remove this? Refresh. Okay, so there we go. Now things are looking a bit better because we have phone number, email, and so on. So this is more reasonable and easier to maneuver inside our project. So here, wait a minute. So it's telling me code to undefined method read on user.class. Wait a minute. (204). Where is that? Oh, so the problem here is the instance. That's what's causing these issues. Okay, what I'll do to fix this error once and for all is let's go back to the core and database here, right? And then let's go to where it says new instance here, return instance, let's go to new self. So I'm going to comment out this just to make sure that every time we get a new instance, and let me see if that error is going to disappear. So I'm going to refresh. Okay, so I think that sorted out that problem. And now let's go to undefined variable settings here on line 152. Okay, so that's because when I initialize it, setting, right? Settings. So let me remove the S there. Wait, undefined variable settings, admin 152. Oh yeah, this is the problem here. Okay, so what we're gonna do, let me come back here. One important thing that I forgot. So cut everything there. One important thing that I forgot is that everything here is running inside the app. So let's go to core and app. So everything is running inside here and not outside like that. So whatever I do outside here is irrelevant because the app is the app. All the views are being run in here. Everything is being run in here. Okay. So it means if we were to declare something, it must be declared inside here. So I see where the issue may have been for many to do this.